What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellowshow. My name's Kyle. We are joined tonight by John Heffernon. How's it going, John?
Hey, doing well, Kyle. How are you?
Doing fantastic, man. We're officially at the end of the football season. We're entering the NFL playoffs, so now basketball is kind of starting to take a more prominent role in my weekly life, and it's fun, man. We kind of have a couple more weeks until All-Star break, and then I think the All-Star break is when things start to really heat up. But we currently have about 42 games into the season. So yeah, we're basically right at halfway right now already. So that's a lot of fun. But anyways, this is our second live show of the year. We covered one last week. We're going to get into some different teams and different ideas this week. But John, we have a major player injury that we have to cover. Let's go and look at the Indiana Pacers, and we'll talk about them in a second. But what can you tell me about the Halliburton injury?
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's pretty recent news, I think, but he's got a sprained left elbow and some sort of knee bruise as well. So he's going to be reevaluated, I think, for two different injuries in like 2 weeks. So he's out at least the next 2 weeks, I would assume, and potentially a little longer than that. So he's a notable out, since he's top 10, top 15 fantasy guys right now, depending on your league. I actually know they have a pretty good replacement. I mean, not necessarily a replacement, but a guy that I have on my roster in our league, Andrew Nembhard. So he's a guy people should be looking to pick up. But I'm sure we're looking at the Pacers. But yeah, like anytime you got one of these like top 15, top 20, top 25 guys that go out, they don't necessarily, you can't really replace them. There's not going to be someone who's going to like start averaging, 40, 50 points a game like Halliburton. So a little bit of replacement by committee, but that Andrew Nembhard guy that's you can see him on the roster a little lower is a guy that I think is, if he's available in your league, he's probably going to be pretty startable for the next 2 or 3 weeks, however long Halliburton's out.
And well, you had even been using Nembhard even with a healthy Halliburton. So I think that there's room for TJ McConnell, like especially if you're in a 12-team league or deeper, like there's room for maybe McConnell and for Halliburton or not Halliburton, but Nembhard and McConnell to both be used in fantasy lineups. And then it does say he suffered a sprained left elbow and a mild left knee bruise. I'm not sure which one's more severe. I think the bruise is probably the good one. It's more the elbow, but he did leave the game on crutches, so that's interesting. But yeah, out 2 weeks. Let's pull up and see. I'm just going to hit the last 7-day stats and kind of see what's going on here. So Miles Turner has been their best player over the last 7 days. There's Buddy Hield at about 31 points. Benedict Mathurin, 50% rostered here. He's averaging about 21 points per game. And then there's Jalen Smith, a fun young player, about 33% rostered. He's getting a good amount of minutes with them right now. And then Nembhard's getting 34 minutes a game. I don't know if we're going to see his minutes increase. How do you see him elevating besides minutes?
Yeah, well, so Nembhard plays a lot to begin with, and he even he starts at like shooting guard often when Halliburton plays. But I think the big change for Nembhard is you take Halliburton out, so someone else has to have the ball in their hands a lot. And now Nembhard kind of goes from a secondary ball handler to a primary ball handler. So he's playing similar minutes, but he's going to be just so much. His usage rate is going to go way up because he's going to have the ball and he's going to be involved in the action. So I do think Nembhard is if he's available, like, and you're hurting, well, especially if you're the Halliburton owner, but even if you're not, if you're just looking for a little support at the guard spot, he should be a target for anyone right now. Really, almost just regardless of your league size.
I'm looking at TJ McConnell here, man. 26 minutes last night, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 14 points.
Yeah, he's probably not owned at all, right? We were just looking at it, but
I might have to slide him in the roster real quick. Well, the games are just starting, so we can't add him for tonight anyways. But looks like tomorrow night they do have a game, so I'll see you in the waiver wire after the show. But yeah, TJ McConnell is a player here who's been kind of spotty minutes. Looks like this is his most minutes he's played in a long time.
Yeah.
But when he hits, I mean, we know he's a really good assist player. So if there's potential for essentially like the starting lineup, who slides into the starting lineup for Halliburton? Is it McConnell?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. They like to bring Matherin off the bench.
Yeah.
And so I'm not really sure you'd think it'd be another guard. And so it's either Duarte, who hasn't really played a whole lot this year, or
Yeah.
McConnell, who's a much more natural fit for the missing position at the point guard. So I would imagine McConnell is a good secondary pickup
Sure.
if you can't get Nemhard, for sure.
And I mean, he's only 4.3% rostered. I think I'm probably looking at Nemhard and McConnell in 10-team leagues if you can get them.
Yes.
Definitely 12-team leagues. I think that's where you want to be. But keep an eye on Duarte because
Yes.
I don't know has he been injured throughout the year? It looks like he missed some time in December, but he's not really as prominent in the offense as he was last year.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. I think it has a little bit to do with just all these new backcourt players. You have Nemhard, who's a rookie. You have Matherin, who's a rookie. You have you have Halliburton, who wasn't on the roster. I think the trade happened over the offseason, not last year. But either way, he was, just a lot of new guards on this team. And so Duarte, who had some opportunities last year, is just kind of out of the rotation. But yeah, Halliburton is playing 35, 36 minutes a game. There's a lot of guard minutes right now available in Indiana. So pay attention to who picks them up. I think Kyle and I project McConnell and Nemhard seem to be good candidates for most of the useful guard minutes, but I would monitor it because you got a 2-3 week stretch where you could get a starting quality player, for cheap or for free.
Right. Anything else with the Pacers? Again, this wasn't a team that we covered. We probably would have gushed about Halliburton had he been healthy here, but they've only got about, at the moment right now, they have about, basically their starting guys are useful for fantasy. They run about 5 deep. What's up with Aaron Naismith here? He had a couple big games lately, and this is a guy that's only 2% rostered. How does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's had some poor games in the beginning of the year, but he's certainly turned it around recently. And
He looks
playing most games. So
I mean, if you are in a 10 or 12-man league, this dude's only 2% rostered.
And we know basketball is a little less active overall than football.
Yeah.
In terms of like users, but yeah, pretty surprising. There are probably multiple Pacers available right now who should be rostered and started in a lot of league types.
So I mean, it looks like he missed the other night with an illness. So this is definitely a player who, I mean, he's already averaging the last 7 days. He's averaging, it looks like 28.5 minutes. So this is a player that I think he's a must roster player. I don't understand this one. I think if you had to pick one, are you picking up Naismith, McConnell, or Nemhard if you had to choose just one?
I would probably go Nemhard because I think he's got some interesting upside, but it's hard to say. I think they're all good options. Naismith might even be, better choice for the long haul.
Sure.
But yeah, I think they're all good choices right now. McConnell might be. I'd probably go Nemhard, Naismith, McConnell, but for the next 3 weeks, I think you'd be happy to have any one.
And I quickly used my phone to grab TJ McConnell. So
nice.
That debate is over. I think all 3 guys are worthwhile here because it's going to be, like you said at the beginning, it's going to be kind of by a committee approach that they'll probably run a really strong 6 or 7-man rotation. So get your Pacers in there. But now that we're kind of settled in here, I can't think of any other major player news. I'm going to actually hit the filter on here for health. Let's see who's IR eligible. Giannis is out. What's up with Giannis being listed as out?
I think it's just like a back-to-back. Bucks played last night. They played tonight, and then they played. So they play the Heat 2 games in a row. They play them today, and they play them Saturday. So I think they're just Heat are a tough matchup for Giannis, so they don't want to wear him out.
So I'm not. This is one of my filters that I like to use on the desktop. I don't know if you can do it actually on your phone.
I don't think you can, the IR thing.
I
Yeah.
like to hit IR eligible, and then I'll tap that plus minus, and I'll just see if someone's out and they're moving. Like I'm interested in picking that guy up. So I just want to call attention to Ricky Rubio, who is finally getting ready to play.
Yeah.
He's been listed as questionable for the last few games. Looks like he has a chance. He's available tonight, so he's going to play 12 to 15 minutes. This might be your last chance or last week or so here to get a player of his caliber. 6.6%. Not sure what his rotation will be with Cleveland, but we do know that when he gets minutes, man, he is very productive. So if he can settle in between 15 and 20 minutes per game, could be a nice little pickup there. And then what's up with Jonathan Isaac? When's the last time
I
we
just
saw this
saw
man play?
like 2 years ago. I saw that he played in a G League game
Yep.
yesterday or some shit.
Cool. So yeah, this note's from Tuesday. He's expected to appear in 2 games for the affiliates, and he's missed 2.5 seasons. So who knows what we're going to get out of him when he comes back. I would like to think that he's going to be ready to go. It sounds like he's getting the opportunity to get back into the mix of things. So we'll see. He's already 24% rostered, so maybe he's not out there. But if you have the IR space, I would definitely recommend adding him. And then I also like to look and see who's like on the minus side of things here. What's up with Devin Vassell for the Spurs?
I think he's out about a month.
Yeah, it's saying returns after All-Star break. This is a player where like if he's being dropped in 9% of fantasy leagues right now. If you can roster a player like him, like he's having a pretty nice season, 32 points per game. I'm trying to think who has him right now. Nick Claxton. Okay. But I haven't watched many Spurs game. I just knew that he was one of the better players for the Spurs this year. So keep an eye on him if someone drops him. Not sure what's up with Kelly Oubre. Ooh, torn ligament in his left hand. So he's out 4 to 6 weeks. Interesting. Should we look at? Do you want to look at the Charlotte Hornets?
Sure. Let's take a look at the Hornets. A lot of O's on the board here for the
Yeah,
Hornets.
we got Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre. Let me bounce over to Cha real quick, and then we'll hit all. Okay, so where are the Hornets in the overall standings of things? They're dead last in the East, 11 and 31. Okay, so this has been a season gone wrong. Let me hit the last 7 days and see how the averages are working. So Terry Rozier, if you have Rozier, you're pretty happy. I think LaMelo Ball too. After that, I mean, Mason Plumlee's been a really good player for me this season. And then PJ Washington. You don't have any of these guys, do you? I don't see your team name on here.
No, I don't have any Hornets.
Okay, so you have no exposure to what's going on in the Hornets. But a player like Kelly Oubre, who's look at that triple eligibility. When you don't really see a lot of triples, man.
No, you don't. You really don't.
So that's kind of fun. And I mean, at the time, here I'm going to hit the last 15 days or so. Oubre was a relatively big piece of their offense. Yeah, he hasn't played for a while, but before his injury, he was putting up 30 minutes or so per game. So I'm just curious to see who is benefiting from that, and can anyone be picked up here? It just looks like there's like the top 5 here. We're expecting Gordon Hayward to be back soon. Jalen McDaniels is probably a guy that needs to be picked up. I don't know if you know anything about him.
I don't follow him I haven't followed him too closely, but I also get him confused with Jaden McDaniels from Timberwolves sometimes. But he's obviously, I mean, look at those last basically since the right before the beginning of the year, or
since Oubre went down.
Yeah, since the new year. Yeah, very impressive numbers.
And this is a player that's 13% rostered. He probably needs to be picked up in deeper formats. It looks like I don't know who Mark Williams is, but he's averaging 20 points per game. Looks like it's kind of choppy. Does have some big point potential and some block potential, but for the most part, like how do you fix the Hornets? Like they're gonna have to just kind of ride the wave the rest of the year with LaMelo, and hopefully they can secure some draft picks next year. Like they got Oubre's dinged up. I don't know when Gordon Hayward's ever gonna play. He's always doing something. Are the Hornets sellers at the trade deadline? Like, what do you think happens with the Hornets the rest of the year?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, you got to keep in mind, like LaMelo missed the first month, maybe even a little more of the season. So obviously, that's a very easy way to tank your record. Missing your best player when you don't have a very good team to begin with. Yeah, I think I'm not really sure why they would hold pieces like a guy like Rozier.
Yep.
He's not super old, but I mean, is he really part of the Hornets' future? The way the Hornets are going, I feel like he's a kind of player that you could potentially get. He's a kind of player you could potentially get, some assets out
Yeah.
of.
He's
Even a
only
Mason
28.
Plumlee, who's Mason Plumlee, Gordon Hayward. Those guys are older as well. Like they're useful. I mean, Hayward is a little bit made of glass right now,
Yeah.
but so
Plumlee's been one of my favorite players to own in fantasy this year, though. If you look at this
yeah,
consistency,
absolutely.
and I think he cost an 11th round pick. So I've been a big fan of Mason Plumlee. I think a couple weeks ago when I started doing my waiver wire shows, the dude was in the 30% roster. So he's starting to kind of climb up now. But I guess if someone ends up dropping Kelly Oubre and you have the long-term patience, he's definitely worth a pickup. I don't know what's going on with Gordon Hayward. I ended up picking him up. He had a nice little run for like maybe 2 weeks, and then the hamstring thing came up here. So maybe next week we'll get Gordon Hayward back. But that's pretty much it on
Yeah.
the Charlotte Hornets. Maybe let's do a free square. John, pick a team. Let's just dive into a Western Conference team. We've covered 2 Eastern so far.
Let's look at did we look at the Jazz last week?
The Utah Jazz. Let's dial it up. They started the season hot. And lately, they have not been playing very well. Let's see here. They're 3-7 in their last 10 days. I remember like the first month of basketball, they were a top 4, top 5 team.
Yes.
And a lot of this is all new faces pretty much over here on the Jazz. Besides like what Mike Conley,
Clarkson.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
essentially, yes, yeah. Conley, Clarkson, and I
Have you
don't know
been
if they
able?
had Olenek last year. I don't think they did.
Have you been able to watch much of the Jazz this season?
Not too much, but I mean, Markkanen has got a real chance
Yeah.
to make an All-Star team this year, and kind of another weird. I mean, not really like the Hornets in terms of record when where they're at and kind of the energy of the season, but just a team that I think potentially could be sellers at the deadline. Like I'm
Yeah.
not really sure what the Jazz are trying to do. Maybe I was talking to some people yesterday actually, and they were saying kind of a mini conspiracy theory. Lauri Markkanen is playing so well, and Salt Lake City with the Jazz are hosting the All-Star game this year. So like originally I thought they were going to try to, sell Lauri Markkanen, and his value's never been higher, but potentially they might be kind of feel like they're forced into keeping him because the All-Star game's in town, and I think he's got a good chance to be an All-Star. So not that that's really that crazy or interesting, but just kind of a silly, weird situation. I think they should probably try to sell Markkanen, Clarkson. Maybe not Markkanen necessarily. I mean, maybe if you think he's a guy you can build around or like one of the pieces you need, but I think they should sell a couple pieces. Maybe I don't know. I'm not sure what you get. I think maybe try to sell Clarkson for draft picks makes the most sense to me. The rest of these guys, I wouldn't mind keeping around.
So the Colin Sexton, he just hasn't been working out in Utah. I know he's been kind of injured throughout the season. He's dealing with a hamstring thing. He's back on Friday though. So if someone, I mean, he's only 61% rostered. So he might be out there if you're in a 10-team league or something. So double check your league for Colin Sexton. But then otherwise, like you have again Jordan Clarkson, he's probably picked up. Jared Vanderbilt, former Timberwolves, actually settling in to a pretty nice role here as kind of like the number 3 or 4 best player on this team. But only 31% rostered, and he's averaging 25 points per game on the year. So he's definitely earning a shout out there. Walker Kessler, what can you tell me about him?
He's a rookie, and looks like he's got a little bit of he's got some of what you need to be a successful big man in the league. I think he's going to be really, really useful over time. But and he's already. I mean, you can see kind of right now he's on a pretty good streak, but as it sometimes happens with rookie and young centers, they get pushed around a little bit. It's just tough out there for him. So he needs to get a little bigger, but he's already productive, and I mean as you can see, he's kind of the only center getting minutes on the roster in the last game and probably last couple games.
Yeah.
So he's got all the opportunity in the world right now.
It's an interesting starting unit.
It is.
They're a heavy 5-man starting unit. Everyone gets above 30 minutes in this game. They're going to bring Vanderbilt off the bench, and maybe Alexander Walker's he hasn't really done much for them this season, has he?
No, they're 3-name guys. Taylor Horton Tucker and Nikhil Alexander Walker are both kind of disappointed. But as you can see, I mean, Alexander Walker kind of heating up a little bit right now. Who knows if he can
put him
keep
on the list? We'll put him on the list for sure. Let's see. Malik Beasley might be one of those guys that you pick up, for a game or two throughout the year. Not sure what's going on. I guess Kelly Olynyk opened things up. I thought he opened up the season really well. He's averaging 25 points per game on the year. Probably not playing at his best so far the last maybe 2 weeks or so. His points are down dramatically, it looks like here, but his other stats are fine. He's only 30% rostered, but this is Kessler Walker's competition for Walker Kessler's competition for minutes. Otherwise, anything else on Utah? Anything else stick out?
Hassan Whiteside has been banished to the shadow realm. We'll never see him again. He was such a big thing for a little bit of time, and now he's gone forever.
We'll see him in the Turkey League or something at some point.
Sure.
So,
one of those Israeli teams, Tel Aviv or whatever.
Yep, we'll see him over there. But I'm trying to remember from last week's show, which I think we talked about the Nuggets, we talked about the Grizzlies. I think we talked about the Pelicans too.
Yep. Maybe touched on the Kings as well. Yeah. So I think we did pretty good at the top of the standings. Why don't you pick a team? Let's stick to the middle and the bottom of the standings this week.
I think we need to talk about the Phoenix Suns.
Perfect. Let's do it.
They're 2-8 in their last 10-game stretch here. Injuries abound. I know Devin Booker's been out for a little bit. I'm not sure how long he's going to be out.
Paul's been out for a little bit.
Yeah, I think Paul's back into the swing of things now. But I have DeAndre Ayton in this league, and he's been kind of in and out of the lineup lately as well. But no bangers on this team. They have They have Ayton and Mikal Bridges both, and Chris Paul. I guess 3 dudes averaging over 30 fantasy points. But after that, it's nothing. Let's click into Devin Booker. Let's read his bio real quick. It's saying on December 28th, he's going to miss at least 4 weeks. So January 28th, we're still 2 weeks out from that. So expect no Devin Booker at least until February. And in lieu of that, nobody else has really stepped up. I guess Torrey Craig.
Yeah, it's been a kind of committee thing as well, right? Like you've seen some Torrey Craig games, you've seen some Landry Shamet games, though Shamet's out as well. You've seen some Damian Lee. You've seen this Dwayne Washington Jr. guy who I didn't know he was a human being a couple weeks ago, and now he's an NBA player that I'm paying some attention to. So
Cameron Payne being out hurts as well. I know he was useful while Chris Paul was away.
Sure.
And then did you ever look at Landry's numbers from a couple weeks ago?
He was scorching at the beginning of the injury to Booker, but he's
settled back.
Yeah.
But so the thing is that he gets a ton of look at these minutes. The last so he missed the 10th and the 11th with a hip injury, but when he plays, his minutes are fantastic. He's pretty much just a scorer. He doesn't really offer much outside of the points department. So that's kind of frustrating. But if you need to, throw out a guy, if they just want to pick up a guy for a night, Shamet's definitely always on the radar here. But I would recommend maybe picking up Torrey Craig especially in a 12-man league. If he's your worst player on your team, that's totally fine. But otherwise, it's just what in your opinion, why aren't the Suns a good team this year besides the injuries?
Well, I think it is just the injuries. I mean, you can just see, they have 4 guys who are basically 90+% rostered between Ayton, Bridges, and Paul and Booker. And the rest of the roster, there's just the fantasy community has no respect for the rest of the roster. Maybe that's a little misplaced in some situations because, we know, the fantasy community can be a little slow to react because there's a lot of inactive leagues, but I think overall that makes sense. It's just a top-heavy roster.
Drake sliding in. Good evening, sir.
What up, boys?
Hey, buddy.
I just realized I'm gonna have to unscrew a light bulb or change my desk location here.
It's blurry and kind
of blurry.
Yeah, you got like a halo effect going on behind
There's
you.
like 4 rows of lights directly behind me where
It's like an optical illusion.
I put the desk. Do you want me to move? Is it kind of crazy?
That's a little better.
Better?
That's fine. But we're just welcome to the show. We hopped down around to a couple teams. We covered the Halliburton injury at the top of the show, and then we kind of just started picking individual teams that we didn't cover last week. We're kind of looking at the Phoenix Suns. I don't know if you've had much exposure to watching them this year. Can you tell us anything about the Suns?
I've watched 2 games because they played the Cavs, both games. It's a contender team. It's hanging in there right now, but the West is just awful. So I think the Suns, when healthy, are really going to give some teams a fit. I think the Mavericks last year were probably a fluke. I don't believe in that team because there's really nothing outside of Luka. So not to focus on other teams.
Mm-hmm.
The Suns have issues though. They have depth issues. They need to make some type of moves here. I thought TJ Warren going to the Nets would have been a nice reunion with the Suns this offseason here. It just seemed, Chris Paul, he's old. He's going to get those minute restrictions. Booker's injured, and he's out, what, a couple months?
Till he's going to be back like first week of February.
Okay, yeah. And then you have Saric and like all these guys that, I don't know, John, it's not an impressive roster right now, but it's somehow good when those 3 are playing.
Yeah.
And then you have Mikal, and Mikal's a nice piece.
I will say they're going to get some reinforcements when Cam Johnson comes back.
Cam's a huge one. He was a guy that they refused to trade multiple years. So it's just an injured team. The Jay Crowder situation.
Yep.
No, I don't know how this team hasn't moved this guy, but then I was reading articles that they actually can't without Robert Salas signing off on it.
Yes, I read that too because it's he's making like any contract that's like over
$10 million, and he's at like 10.9.
Oh, okay.
And so that's obviously the disgruntled owner situation. So
right.
It's weird over there. If this team can get its focus and its mojo back, though, I have no doubt it's a contender.
So we're probably not going to see them at least hit their stride until after the All-Star break when they get Booker, Cam Johnson, maybe Cameron Payne back, and some of these other guys healthy. So it's kind of just treading water and trying to steal some games when they can.
How many teams in the NBA are like that right now, though? And we have Kevin Durant out for what, 4 weeks?
Yeah.
Just all these teams are kind of just hanging in there. The Nuggets, good for them, but they've also had injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Grizzlies have had injuries.
Warriors.
Pelicans are the 3 seed without Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
And Zion's been out for a couple weeks, and he's going to be out a couple more weeks.
Their best player, though, has been out. I know a lot of people say Zion, but I tend to think Brandon Ingram's the best player on that team. But they're deep. They're ready for a run.
Pelicans are good. They're scary. If they could be, a lot of teams are saying if we could be healthy and in the mix in the playoffs, like in the playoff seedings, we're going to be pretty excited about that. I think the Warriors feel similarly. Steph is just literally coming back after being out a month. A lot of 4-6 week injuries this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that happens every year, but I'm noticing it more this year than usual. I feel like. And we're halfway through the season. Like we said at the top of the show, we're halfway through the season, and we've already had damn near 50-60% of the stars have missed a month of the season already.
How are the Timberwolves playing before the cat injury? Is he back soon?
I don't know if he's back soon. The T-Wolves were actually playing pretty good. This Gobert trade is looking really silly at this point because they don't even play him in the 4th.
Right.
So, he comes in on defensive situations, but when they're down by 10, it doesn't matter. So, that's another interesting team. I think D'Angelo Russell has had a good year. I think we're finally seeing him healthy again, which is nice. Obviously, Ant is the guy, but
Kyle Anderson's a sneaky player right now. He's been getting a ton of run. A good minutes player for them. He's only 9% rostered in fantasy leagues, and he's averaging almost 28 fantasy points per game. I think as everyone pretty much hopped on, Jaden McDaniels is a pretty good player.
Yeah.
I think
we've been using those two guys for a long time.
Yeah, like I think I remember last year he was probably the guy that got passed around once or twice a week, and it's nice to see him finally getting established into a decent role. For the Wolves. And then the other guy that I think I've looked at a lot this year is Jalen Noel, who can kind of light it up and score off the bench for them in spurts. He's a pretty consistent player for the most part, just random points up and down, but everything else is pretty consistent. And then reading the Karl Anthony Towns, he got injured at the end of November. It said 4 to 6 weeks from then, so we're at the 6-week mark. So I would assume in the next week.
These are basketball injuries, though, man. They're so hard to. And then they hold his foot sore.
Calf string. So hopefully at some point this week, it says he's considered weeks away from returning to the lineup, and that was on the 7th, so last week. So maybe we can get him back before February. It'd be nice to get him back before the All-Star break. When is the All-Star break?
Into February. Right, John?
That's how. Yeah, I was gonna say end of February. Yeah,
19th. I was gonna say the 20th.
Okay, so we're 5 weeks away from the All-Star break. We're gonna see a lot of players return after that, I'm sure. But anything else on the Timberwolves here? Are they a team that, if they can kind of tread water,
I think Towns has a similar injury, just to hit on your point, to what I was dealing with RJ Barrett.
Okay,
it's a different injury, but it was out. He's out. He's out. And then I just kept checking. So if you're Towns owner, keep checking, because Barrett was on my IR, and I happened to look yesterday, and I just read about him. It's well, he's questionable. I was well, I'll throw him in there. I don't have much going on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or a Thursday or Wednesday, and he scored 41 fucking points. So I think Towns is at that situation, and that's the hard thing about NBA is we don't know. And then a guy can go, I messaged you guys today. I was I was all in. Now I'm game time decision.
Yeah.
And Kyle put me on minutes restrictions.
So we're only going to give you about a half. But the thing I've noticed with injuries this year is if you have a guy that's missed a good amount of time, you want to see him listed as questionable, because then that means he's coming back soon.
But he doesn't have to be listed as questionable, is my point.
Right, for the RJ Barrett one.
No, just other players too. They can go. I've kept guys on my IR, and then all of a sudden I see, oh crap. So basketball is different than football in that aspect.
Yeah.
It can change that minute.
They don't need to list their practice participation or anything like that. No. It's pretty much a day-to-day thing going forward. But do you think the Timberwolves, if they can kind of tread water, are they a team that could be a sneaky? I mean, you look at the back, this under this dotted line to here, Timberwolves in that little play-in tournament.
They're what, a game out?
Yeah, it's 2 games back. Game and a half.
If the Timberwolves are the 4 seed, I'm not surprised.
And it looks like the cutoff this year is kind of Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't expect them to make a run or anything into the play-in tournament. I think we should maybe look at the Lakers at one point in the show tonight. We haven't talked about them yet. I don't have any player access to the Portland Trailblazers, so I don't know what's going on with them. If you guys had to pick one, which should we look at, the Blazers or the Lakers?
So a point after the teams here that was brought up in our group chat is I think we should look at minutes played and games played by individual players tonight.
So which team should we pick?
No team. I want overall, because availability is.
I think we have to go to. I don't know if we can actually look at minutes played. We can look at average minutes, but I don't know if you can look at total minutes.
I can look at average.
Yeah. Go to the totals toggle on the top right.
Is this a good reroute?
Yeah.
I think it's a huge thing, because I'm convinced that you could build a successful championship fantasy team by just getting guys that play.
Yep.
That maybe you don't have that superstar. You have some good guys, but.
Well, right now, RJ Barrett's averaging the most minutes per game over the last 15 days.
And he hasn't played in 5 days.
Yeah.
So instead of looking at averages, maybe we should look at how many overall minutes.
How many games they've played? Can we look at that? I don't know. I think it's a great stat.
So I noticed one thing. There's like maybe what's on my
There's a guy like Gary Trent Jr. He probably plays every game.
Yeah.
He's probably just grinding I'm just seeing even he's out, a little. But I'd be curious to see if we could build a team that was, good to average players.
Well,
But
like Brunson kind of qualifies for like a above average. Good
that's a great one. Brunson's an all-star this year too.
He was a second round pick, but like this is a guy that if you took him in the second round, you've been pretty happy with what you got. I would bet Dejounte Murray is another one of those players. Like he plays a lot.
But look at that. He was out.
Yeah. I think at this point,
is there a guy that isn't out in the NBA?
Here, let's see. Even Donovan Mitchell missing.
He's been out.
So if you toggle to the totals instead of the averages, you could see who's played the most minutes over any period of time we can cover.
There you go. So Zach LaVine leads the league in minutes over the last 15 days.
Look at number 3.
So you have DeRozan. You have the Bulls in here, so maybe they have a couple extra games over everybody.
Those aren't first round picks though.
No, but these are guys that
these guys aren't playing.
If you took them round, like this is what's going to make your playoff run for you.
Mm-hmm.
He's been scoring some high point totals the last few weeks here too. But then you get like a weird one like Patrick Williams, who's got the sixth most minutes.
Yeah,
he's only averaging 20 points per game in that span here. But even then, it's like
he's playing every night.
When you guys go to the waiver wire, I know you're looking at minutes. You want opportunity. That's I guess that's why we're looking at this. It's one of the most important stats because if you're going to get minutes, you should be able to get some points with those. But anything else?
Look at the whole season. Look at the whole season.
Yeah, I mean, look at Niki. Who the heck? I don't even know who that guy is. Who's below CJ McCollum?
Sorry.
This is filtered. Never mind. Just carry on.
The whole season, though. This is exactly what we're
Kyle
talking
Kuzma.
about.
Kyle Kuzma.
Kuzma's been fantastic, man.
Yeah.
For a 6th round pick, I fucking love him. He's got 35 points per game.
You stole that.
And he doesn't miss games.
No, is getting a superstar more important?
Parks and marketing.
I don't see any superstars in this list outside of Tatum.
Tatum would be the guy.
Yeah. That's why I picked him last year.
Durant.
Jaylen Brown.
Luka doesn't miss much.
So Luka would be the one.
But look at Lauri Markkanen has shown in both of them. Both filters, Lauri Markkanen's there.
Yeah, he's back. So essentially Bridges was like a 4th round pick?
Bridges plays every single game. He played every game last year, played every game the year before, he played every game the year before that. Okay, not literally, but he's literally missing 1 or 2 games a season. He's the Iron Man in the NBA right now.
Do you know who's missing from this list that has dominated this list the past 2 seasons?
Giannis.
I was going to say Jokic.
Yeah. I mean, Giannis has been up there until
Giannis misses games with more regularity than you realize.
Okay.
He'll miss maybe 3 or 4 games a month, kind of at that point. Whereas Jokic has been a guy that's he's been the number 1 fantasy player for the last 2 years because he doesn't miss games. And
what do you think the difference is this year, though?
With him,
we have a Porter Jr. and a Murray healthy.
Maybe the team around him is just better.
Yeah, like he can miss games.
It's
not him scoring 40 a night.
This is better for him. They almost need less of him. Because then that means the rest of the team's better. So I guess that's a good problem to have at the moment.
Scroll down below Anthony Simons. Let's look at the next page here.
Franz Wagner here.
Franz.
He's not punching people.
A 7th.
Actually, he got punched.
No, he did the punching.
He did the punching?
Oh no, it was the other one. It was
Mortez.
It was Moritz.
Yeah,
this is the list of the league winners. You've got guys like Franz, Dinwiddie, Grant, Anunoby, Bojan, Buddy,
Mitchell, and Mobley, obviously.
Well, I mean, those guys are like, those are absolutely, but those guys are like higher picks, right?
No, but like these guys are the sneaky, like
like Porter.
You got Josh Hart.
These are the value picks these are the value picks in drafts that if you get a couple of these guys, you're doing okay.
Jesse drafted.
Jesse had no idea who Josh Hart was. He's never heard that guy's name.
Buddy loves them.
Buddy
I'm trying to
friend.
look and see, like, were any of these guys free agents in our fantasy leagues this year? Where was Grant? Grant was an
Probably
8th
not
rounder.
any of these
No.
guys. I would have said maybe Hart, but he was a 7th round pick somehow.
Yeah, so all these guys cashed in the 6th, 7th round
Yeah.
for the most part here. So what about
Well,
Kevin?
Bojan feels like he was maybe a later pick, but we drafted after the season started.
There you go. So
The problem is,
there you go.
this
winner.
resets.
He's the 10th.
Like, we're talking about this now, and then we're gonna look at this in like a month,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be like, okay,
So-
now the
Well,
guys,
Durant's
like Royce O'Neal, he might not even be on your team at that point.
Well, Durant's in the top 10. He's about to miss 4 weeks. Like,
Right. So
he's-
this is gonna reset, and then
Yep.
all of a sudden the stars are gonna start playing after the break.
Yeah. Royce O'Neal is a player that I drafted him in the 13th round. I ended up dumping him because he had a little bit of missed time in early December or late December. And he's a guy that, he logs 35, 36 minutes per game.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
what you want. I mean,
It's just-
opportunity. That's all you need.
At that point. But otherwise, anybody else on this, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is one of those guys that I love picking him up off the waiver wire and plugging him in. You have
Harrison Barnes was cheap.
what's Trey Jones doing on the list here? Almost 30 points per game. This was a 9th round pick, and just
That was a guy we passed around the last couple of years.
look at the consistency here from this
That's
guy.
beautiful.
That's what you want in a 9th round pick.
Well done, Hef.
Anybody else stick out
Not
on
me.
this list?
That's not me. I'm not Trey Jones. That's Schmitty.
Michael Schmidt.
He's wasted. I mean, Max Struess. You see that one coming?
Lose. Pat Will.
What's up?
Pat
with-
Will and Struess are guys that I've picked up and dropped multiple times.
But the Heat have had so many injuries. That's why I got Gabe Vincent rolling because it's
I was on
guards
defense
are
and
out.
made a shot. That's Matt Bame's team name now? Does that mean anything to
I
us?
think it's like from a video, like a YouTube video. A cute little kid who
probably from like
Little basketball kid.
2008.
Probably a TikTok or some stupid shit. But anyway, so yeah, minutes are the key that you
I think
want.
De'Aaron Fox is the best steal of the fantasy year.
He's been a lot of fun.
could be.
Yeah,
Where did I get him?
because he like dude's an all-star.
I ended up getting him I took him in the 2nd round, so I had to pay for him, but I've been very
Did
happy
well.
with everything.
But I feel, but again, we drafted like as the season was going, so we had a little idea of who was hot already, and Fox is. I think if you drafted it before the season started, you might have taken him more of like the 4th, 5th round.
Sure.
I forget that point. That's good, John.
So I just want to tap last 7 days and see if there's anybody that's like, I guess this is a good, if you need to find players on the waiver wire, definitely filter by total minutes and see who's getting the most run in your fantasy leagues. Cause there's a lot of like right here, Najee Marshall for the Pelicans. The dude's averaging 35 points per game over the last 7 days. Look at these numbers here.
Look how many teams he's been owned by.
Wow.
Look at those
So-
points.
So yeah, he's been bounced around in this league, and he's only 8% owned. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's on a 5-game heat streak here of over 33 minutes,
Hot.
touching 4 categories almost every night.
Najee with a J.
Here's your pickup of the night, Najee Marshall,
Yeah.
and that correlates with Ingram being injured, right?
Yeah.
And Zion.
Right.
Zion,
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
So that's a big one. Tim Hardaway Jr. Not a huge fantasy guy, but he's up here in minutes. He's going to be on the floor a lot. He's only 16% rostered.
Killian.
Drake, is this guy is this guy rosterable in a 12-man league?
yeah.
I
No.
think as your worst player on your 12-man league, like this is what you want.
He also plays every game.
Because he's a guy you're gonna cut. I mean,
That's the problem.
That's the issue because it's 12-man. You're playing hot. You're playing the hot hands that week. You're trying to get a guy in. You're down by 100. I don't think he's a guy you keep around, to be honest.
So his numbers, if you look at his last 3 games, 15, 21, 17, after those performances, you're probably going to be like, oh, I'm going to try someone else.
Go back to the 30th.
To the what?
Go back to the 30th. It's 13.6. It's 0.75.
Wait, I just missed something here. To the 30th.
Not Najee.
Who did you want to go to?
Who we were just on.
Patrick Williams, my bad.
Yeah.
The 30th here?
Yeah. So in those back-to-backs.
Yeah,
he's
so
playing
after
minutes, but he can't perform.
Right. So after 2 of those games, that's probably when you're going to want to end up cutting him.
Yeah. So snag him for a heater.
Rent him it's a 2-week rental at that point. Maybe 1.5 weeks, 1 week.
4 hours.
That's
It's a motel room type.
He's playing every game. It's the test of your theory, Drake. Is like Kyle said, as your worst player in a 12-team league, is he worth holding just because he's fucking playing every game, and you can kind of count on that a little bit.
But because Kyle said that, I had to go against it. I just had Terrence Mann. Because he said your worst player on your 12-man league. Like, you're not gonna, if he said your worst rotational player, maybe I agree, but you're not going to keep your worst player on your 12-man team, right?
So, because we kind of lock in.
I've had Pat Will for weeks.
So I kind of leave I kind of leave 2 spots as rotational. So,
and you've succeeded with it.
And well, I guess he would qualify.
He's had a pretty good 2 weeks.
He's also not been my worst player.
If I were to pick up Patrick Williams, I'm going to give him like a 5-game leash, essentially. Yeah. And if he hits 3 games out of those 5, I'll give him a couple more games. If he gets under 3, then we're going to reevaluate things. But you do give him a leash. But what about a guy here? I don't know if you know who I clicked on, but his last 5 games, this is a guy that probably is one of those rotational pieces that you pick up off your waiver wire.
Who is this?
This is a shooting guard for I believe the Clippers.
Terrence Mann.
Yeah, it's Terrence Mann.
Yep. He's a great pickup because he plays shooting guard and small forward.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but filling that small forward position is kind of a issue this year. Like, to pick up guys to fill it, usually being forward or power forward. Yeah. He covers 2 great positions.
Mm-hmm.
And
look at the Franz.
Yeah.
There's
a triple eligible. It's so rare. It's like a holographic.
Give him a point guard one too.
But I'm gonna keep it moving.
Yeah, I think Terrence Mann's a great pickup. I just dropped him today because he's not playing.
Well, let's talk about Grant Williams, because this has been your backdoor man all year.
I hate it.
Well, this is the guy. Like, this is to your T. He gets the minutes that you like. He's a guy that, he's going to get you 4 on a couple nights, but he's going to get you, maybe not the 38 as often, but he can hit that 20, hit that 24. Mm-hmm. This is a guy this is one of your rotational guys that you pick up, for a 2-game stint or something like that. He's going to play. He doesn't miss games, so he's going to play in back-to-backs. So you like that. That's where he probably comes into play.
You just have all the category outside of like points. Like with Grant Williams, you have all the category options.
Yeah.
He's going to get you rebounds. He's going to get you blocks. He'll get a steal here or there. I mean, look at the 25th against Milwaukee. He had 2 steals. Yeah. He's not going to score a lot unless it's like garbage time stuff.
Or playoffs versus the Milwaukee Bucks. But that's for a different.
Which we all thanked him for. But anyways, he's like to the T, my guy.
What do you know about this guy with the breadstick hair?
Look, I mean, he's
a lot of minutes.
Down. You'll see he's been used.
Interesting. So this might be the worst one that we've pulled up because he gets a ton of minutes.
And he's terrible.
He's terrible. He's had 3 games over 20 points in this list.
Yeah, that's why I didn't keep him around. He's like, he gets the minutes, so he fills that category, but he fills no other category ever.
So I think we did a good
smack that, I got that 28-point game.
So Houston. This was the first player that we looked at and we're like, probably not. So it just goes to show, if you're watching the show tonight, minutes are your friend. Unless you play categories and you need, to add specific stats, you can do it that way. But for the most part, I think more people play points straight up. But John,
we've combed this data with this minutes theory for insights, and we've provided them for you on a silver platter. So go win your leagues now.
Yeah. And make some like low ball trades. Like, go get a guy that nobody like. If you send someone an offer for Dylan Brooks, we're like, I'm going to consider that at least.
Go make a move for Mason Plumlee.
Oh, I'm not giving up Mason Plumlee, that's for sure. If you have Plumlee, you are not giving him up. You're not giving up that draft value. But we got we're on about 50 minutes here. That Bucks game, John, is that thing finally started up?
It's about halfway through the first, yeah.
Halfway through the first. So I guess we'll finish with some closing thoughts. Drake, did you have anything you want to touch on before we get out of here tonight?
I feel like I just got started. We could go for
You're on a minutes restriction. You're in the first half. John and I are in the back.
I'm playing hard.
We are on the 2 minutes.
I had a Gatorade earlier.
Okay, what color?
Damn.
Purple. Always purple.
Oh my God. You have just blood pumping through those veins right now. You are ready to go do some kick flips in your basement. But I don't know.
I think this was a good section, like to just look at it from a fantasy. And, I think basketball is one of those like undermined fantasy sports right now. I think we've all agreed on that because of all the changes we want ESPN to make, and they won't. And there's different avenues to look at. It's not football. It's definitely not baseball.
I think the most enjoyable thing about fantasy basketball is there's always people on the waiver wire, and it's not just you get to sit and watch football for one day. There's something going on every night. So there's action every night. There's moves to be made every day. It keeps you entertained in the evening. You can see if your random pickup guy hit 25 points for you. But it's like the minutes are the most important stat, but like you can find other filters and things to look for to find a guy that'll trigger you for 20 points. So
since we're on that point, JaVale McGee last year was the anti-minutes like guy.
Yeah.
Because he got like 10 to 12 minutes a game. Maybe he was hitting 14, but he also had like 24 fantasy points.
Right.
Because he just came in, got boards, got blocks, and got the heck out to the bench.
Who would that be? Who would that guy be this year?
Can we find that guy this year?
So I'm trying to. Do we have to go to like averages per minutes then, or should I look up? How would we find?
I'm sorry to throw a wrench in there. I was just kind of like counteracting my point.
I'm just gonna go to like.
There are those rare gems where.
I'm gonna go to page 3. A guy that hasn't played a lot of minutes, but that also might be like.
Even the Morse brothers like can do that too.
I think I'd have to hit averages to find that.
Yeah, I'd look at a guy who's playing low minutes and has high points.
So what's considered low, like under 20 minutes?
I would say so.
Let's go to page. So here we go. We're kind of in the under 20s. You got a Jalen Smith here. He's getting 20 minutes and 20 points per game. Here's Robert Williams. He gets 19.9 minutes, 24 points per game, which is pretty nice.
That's exactly what we're talking
George
about.
Hill?
Joe Ingles is never mind.
Brandon Clark he gets 19 minutes and 21 points per game. Let me go to the next page here. Here's again Walker Kessler. We talked about him on Utah earlier. He's only averaging 19 minutes per game.
I watched that game. Walker Kessler is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this tidbit. After the game, Donovan Mitchell went over to Walker Kessler and like took him to the side and said, you need to stop calling what you're going to do on defense. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'm going to score on you. Because that's who he was targeting. Because Kessler was out there, but that dude plays hard. He's good. He's a good really basketball player. Like I was super impressed with him against Cleveland.
Yeah, he put up a nice. 30 minutes. He was involved a lot of rebounds.
It's tough to cover. He's a big body that can move down there.
It's a boulder. I'm just trying to find maybe one more guy that trips. Here's Naz Reid for the Minnesota Timberwolves. 17 minutes per game, 20 points per game.
Zaire Williams. Look at that guy. He's
Gafford's a guy too.
Gafford's been a really good player this year. 17 minutes per game, 18.4 fantasy points. That's a solid minutes per point guy. And then I wish we could like create a custom filter where we could find that, points or I guess minutes and be points per minute, essentially. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Where are you chilling right now, Hef?
I'm in my apartment. This is a virtual
nice background. I was like, holy shit. Hef's over there playing the piano, lighting his fireplace.
Jesse got me on one of those screens one time. I was like, are you on vacation? What's going on here? But any final thoughts before we get out of here for tonight? John can go watch his beloved Bucks. Drake, we'll try and get you on a full minutes count next week.
Yeah, I should be ready to play.
Make sure
you guys should all see the Cavs fans. They're on for the show.
Okay. Nice.
They are. Cavs play tonight at 9.
Oh, the Blazers.
That's a good one.
I won't be awake.
Got a close one here in Miami.
But John, any final thoughts?
Not tonight. No, I've been. It's the dog days of the season. Make sure you're setting your lineups and listening to us.
Yes, set your lineups. For me, I always like to look. It's Central Time in our time zones. I always like to look at like right before I leave work. I'm gonna log in and I'm gonna look at that before I get home, because then I'll usually forget it when I get home. So check your lineups. Check your IRs. Make sure you got no mofos playing in there and getting points in your IR. And yeah, it's good to be into the swing of things. This is our second show. We'll get back to another full. We're gonna get Drake full minutes next week, and probably Tuesday. Maybe Tuesday next week, guys. We'll see.
Tuesday.
Sure. Tuesday's kind of the day. It's weird on a Thursday. No one knows what's going on.
There's no Thursday night football though, so we might as well show up.
That is nice.
Hef's about to go play the piano over there.
And get the fire roaring. Oh yeah.
It's like the fire over here, yeah.
While Alice delivers a hot beef to him.
Oh my God.
What a life he lives.
It's a beautiful life out here.
But anyways, that's gonna do it for us tonight. Thank you guys for your time. Good luck. Check your lineups. We'll see you next week. Peace.